The evolution of lead generation, from traditional methods to AI innovation. Lead generation didn't change its goal, only its speed and precision. Lead generation has always been about one thing: starting the right sales conversations with the right buyers. What's changed is how fast we can find those buyers, how well we can personalize outreach, and how quickly we can learn what's working. In 2025, the teams that win aren't choosing between traditional and modern. They're combining proven outbound fundamentals with AI-driven targeting and execution. If you've been in B2B sales for any length of time, you've seen the evolution firsthand. Trade shows, purchase lists, manual dialing, then CRMs and automation, and now AI that can research accounts, draft outreach, and prioritize follow-up before an SDR opens their laptop. That progression is exactly why the bar has risen. Buyers expect relevance, and leadership expects efficiency. The question is no longer whether AI belongs in lead generation, but where it creates measurable lift without turning your outreach into noise. In this article, we'll map the shift from traditional plays to AI innovation, show what's working right now in cold calling and cold email, and lay out a practical approach you can apply whether you build internally or use sales outsourcing. Along the way, we'll call out the common mistakes that quietly kill deliverability, burn segments, and waste SDR hours. The goal is simple: more qualified meetings, cleaner pipeline math, and fewer wasted touches. Traditional outbound still works when targeting and messaging are tight. Long before AI agents and sequencing tools, B2B teams relied on a small set of channels: cold calling, events, referrals, direct mail, and relationship-driven networking. Those channels weren't low-tech, they were just human-powered and hard to scale. The upside was focus, fewer touches, more intentional conversations, and a clear connection between effort and results. Cold calling is the best example of a traditional channel that still produces real meetings today. In 2024, the average cold call success rate for meetings booked from conversations was 4.82%. And in 2025, many teams still land around 2 to 3% on average, with top performers reaching 6 to 10% when the list quality, talk tracks, and timing are right. That's why cold calling services remain a core engine for many outbound sales teams, even as new tools show up. The limitation of the old playbook wasn't effort, it was visibility and leverage. Data was thin, follow-up was inconsistent, and optimization was mostly intuition. That's why modern outbound sales agencies and SDR agencies don't treat phone as a standalone tactic. They treat it as one step in a coordinated sequence that includes research-driven messaging and tight qualification. Automation improved scale, but it also created a productivity problem. CRMs, marketing automation, and sequencing tools made lead generation measurable and repeatable. You could track opens, clicks, replies, stages, and attribution, then iterate quickly. But the promise of more tools equals more revenue didn't fully materialize because the work shifted onto reps, managing systems, updating records, and coordinating handoffs across teams. Salesforce research highlights the bottleneck. Reps spend only 28% of their week actually selling, with the rest going to admin, internal coordination, and tool hopping. For many organizations, that turns into a vicious cycle. Leaders add tools to increase output, but each tool adds friction, and the net result is fewer live conversations. This is one reason outsourced sales teams and sales development agencies have stayed popular. They provide focus and execution without drowning internal teams in more process. The practical takeaway is that lead gen strategy and lead gen operations are inseparable. If your workflow can't sustain speed, clean data in, consistent activity out, accurate reporting throughout, no channel will perform for long. Before you add yet another point solution, consolidate around a small stack that integrates well with your CRM and sequencing. Then measure impact on meetings and pipeline instead of raw activity volume. AI changes the math by upgrading research, personalization, and prioritization. AI is not a replacement for good selling. It's a force multiplier for the parts of lead generation that used to be slow, manual, or inconsistent. Adoption is already mainstream. 56% of sales professionals use AI daily, and those users are about 2x more likely to exceed their sales targets than non-users. That gap compounds over time because AI-augmented teams learn faster and execute more consistently. The market is scaling accordingly. The global AI agents category is projected to grow from $5.40 billion in 2024 to $50.31 billion by 2030, signaling that semi-autonomous assistants, research, routing, next best actions are moving from experiments into standard operating models. For lead generation, the immediate value comes from using AI to decide who to contact, what to say, and when to follow up, without forcing SDRs to spend hours researching each account. And the performance impact is real. Businesses using AI-powered lead generation tools report roughly a 35% increase in conversion rates, especially when AI is applied to intent analysis, scoring, and routing. McKinsey also estimates generative AI can lift marketing productivity by 5 to 15% of total marketing spend, and sales productivity by about 3 to 5% of sales costs, which is meaningful even before you account for pipeline acceleration. The best teams treat that lift as a process redesign, not a tool rollout. AI shouldn't help you send more messages. It should help you send fewer messages to the wrong people and more relevant messages to the right ones. Where AI fits best in the funnel: target, engage, qualify, and hand off. The fastest wins usually come from putting AI into the workflows that directly affect meeting volume and SDR capacity. Start by tightening your ICP, then use AI-assisted list-building services to enrich firmographics, identify buying committee roles, and spot triggers like hiring spikes or tech changes. When your target list is clean and focused, every downstream motion, email, phone, LinkedIn outreach services, gets cheaper and more effective. On the engagement side, AI helps most when it's used for research-backed personalization, rather than spray and pray variation. For a cold email agency or an internal team running outbound, this typically means turning one strong template into a set of tailored messages that reference the prospect's context without changing the core offer or CTA. The goal is consistent positioning with relevant hooks, not 1,000 randomized versions of the same pitch. Qualification and handoff is where many organizations leak revenue, so this is also where AI can create outsized impact. Use AI to summarize calls, auto-log activities, and recommend next steps so SDRs spend less time in admin and more time talking to buyers. When you combine that with rules-based or AI-based lead scoring tied to fit and intent, your B2B cold calling services and email sequences start feeding sellers with fewer but better opportunities. Benchmarks to manage the transition, and a simple way to measure lift. Modernizing lead generation works best when you can compare before and after using a small set of meaningful metrics. We recommend mapping your funnel stages from lead to customer, then tying AI experiments to down-funnel outcomes: qualified meetings, pipeline created, win rate, and cycle length. Measuring success only by top-of-funnel volume is how teams create noise while feeling productive. A practical way to operationalize this is to set a baseline for phone and email performance, then run 2 focused pilots. One AI pilot aimed at improving outreach relevance, research plus personalization, and a second aimed at reclaiming SDR time, auto-logging, summarization, routing. When implemented well, marketing automation can increase qualified leads by up to 451%. But that upside only matters if your SDR motion can respond quickly and qualify consistently. Otherwise, you just create a bigger backlog. Use this table as a starting point for benchmarking and prioritizing improvements across your outbound sales agency motion, whether you're building internally or evaluating sales outsourcing. Common AI lead gen mistakes and how to avoid them without slowing down. The most expensive mistake we see is using AI to scale bad strategy, especially blasting huge, generic lists with lightly spun copy. That approach hurts domain reputation, irritates your market, and makes future outreach to the same segment harder. If you want AI to help, start with smaller, higher intent segments and use AI to deepen research and improve relevance, not to multiply volume. The second mistake is assuming AI will fix bad data and a messy CRM. If titles are wrong, accounts are duplicated, and ownership is unclear, AI will still prioritize and personalize, just around the wrong inputs. Run a data hygiene effort in parallel with your AI rollout. Standardize fields, dedupe, enrich core firmographics, and define who owns data quality so your lead scoring and routing has a reliable source of truth. The third mistake is buying too many disconnected tools, then wondering why adoption is low. Reps already lose time to tool switching, and piling on point solutions increases friction while reducing consistency. Consolidate around a small stack, pilot AI in 1 or 2 workflows, and include your SDR team in the design. If your cold calling team doesn't trust the prompts or the research, they'll ignore it or use it inconsistently. What the next generation of outbound looks like, and how to move now. The future of lead generation is not AI replaces SDRs. It's human-led conversations powered by machine-speed research and operational execution. As AI agents scale toward a $50.31 billion market by 2030, the competitive advantage will come from teams that redesign roles, cadences, and KPIs around quality and speed, not just more touches. In practice, that means multi-channel sequences that blend cold email, B2B cold calling, and LinkedIn touches, with AI recommending next best actions and summarizing context before each interaction. A modern SDR agency or B2B sales agency should be able to show exactly how it protects deliverability, enforces ICP discipline, and improves meeting quality, not just how many activities it can generate. If you're exploring pay-per-appointment lead generation or pay-per-meeting lead generation models, evaluate them on qualification rigor and pipeline outcomes, not just calendar volume. At SalesHive, we've built our approach around this blended model, experienced SDRs running phone and email with an AI-powered platform that supports targeting, research, and personalization while keeping humans accountable for messaging and qualification. Whether you're hiring internally or considering an outsourced sales team, the next step is the same. Pick one segment, define success metrics, run a tight pilot, and expand only when meetings, pipeline, and rep productivity move together. That's how AI becomes an upgrade to your process, not just another tab in the browser.